Marcus Chen stood at the observation window of Crossroads Haven, watching ships come and go. The neutral space station floated quietly between human and alien territories, a place where different species could meet without old tensions. Marcus lived here now, away from Earth, away from memories he wished he could forget. He worked as a medic in the station's small clinic. The job was simple and predictable. That was exactly what he needed. The war had ended 3 years ago, but Marcus still carried it with him. He had been a field medic during the frontier wars, patching up soldiers under enemy fire, watching some live and others die. Too many had died. When the war finally ended, Marcus found he could not return to his old life. The loud noises of Earth cities made him jump. The crowds made his heart race. So he came here, to this quiet station where he could help people without the chaos. Today started like any other day. Marcus checked supplies in the clinic, organized medicines, and waited for patients. Then the alarm chimed. A ship was requesting emergency docking. Marcus moved to the docking bay with his medical kit. A dragon vessel settled onto the platform, much larger than human ships. Dragons were an ancient species, powerful and proud. They rarely asked others for help. The ship's door opened. 3 adult dragons emerged, their scales gleaming like polished metal. Each was enormous, with wings that could block out the sun. Between them, they carried something small wrapped in cloth. "We need medical assistance," the lead dragon said. Her voice was deep and formal. "For a hatchling." Marcus stepped forward. "Bring her to the clinic." They followed him inside. When they unwrapped the cloth, Marcus saw the injured hatchling for the first time. She was small, barely the size of a large dog. Her scales were dull gray instead of the brilliant colors adult dragons displayed. Her wings lay at odd angles against her body, clearly broken. She made small, pained sounds that tugged at Marcus's heart. "What happened?" Marcus asked, examining her carefully. "An accident during flight training," the lead dragon explained. "She fell from a great height. The injuries are severe." Marcus could see that immediately. Both wings were badly damaged. He noticed other problems, too, the way she struggled to breathe, the swelling around her throat. "She needs specialized care," Marcus said. "Dragon physiology is not my specialty. You should take her to the Dragon Medical Center on Sanctuary Prime." The lead dragon looked away. "We came from there. They refused treatment." Marcus stared. "Refused? Why?" "The injuries are too extensive. Her wings will never heal properly. She will never fly as dragons should fly. Her vocal organs are damaged. She cannot produce fire or the mighty roar of our kind." The dragon's voice carried deep sadness. "They say she is incomplete, that resources should not be spent on one who cannot fulfill dragon nature." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. He looked at the small hatchling, seeing the pain and confusion in her golden eyes. She was just a child, suffering and afraid. "I will examine her properly," Marcus said. "Wait here." He spent the next hour conducting a thorough examination. The hatchling, the dragons called her Ember, whimpered but did not fight him. She seemed too exhausted and frightened to resist. His findings confirmed the dragon's assessment. Ember's wings had multiple fractures that had already begun healing incorrectly. Her throat showed severe damage. Even with the best care, she would never fly like other dragons. She would never breathe fire. These abilities defined dragon identity and status in their culture. Marcus returned to the waiting dragons. "The injuries are serious, but she can survive. With proper care, she can heal. She will have limitations, but she can live a good life." "We know this," the lead dragon said. "We seek a place for her. The Dragon Council has decided she should be placed in a long-term care facility. We are asking stations along this route if they have space." A facility? Marcus asked. You mean you are giving up on her? The dragon's expression was unreadable. We are ensuring her survival. She cannot return to dragon society in this condition. She would be outcast, pitied. Better she lives quietly elsewhere. Marcus looked at Ember again. The small dragon was watching him with those intelligent golden eyes. He saw something in them he recognized, the look of someone who had been judged and found wanting, someone the world had decided to discard. He had worn that same look when he left the military, when friends and family told him he should move on and get over it, when they could not understand why he could not simply return to normal life. I will take her, Marcus heard himself say. The dragons turned to him in surprise. You? But you are human. You have no experience with dragons. I am a medic. I know how to care for the injured. I know how to help someone heal. Marcus met the lead dragon's eyes. And I know what it feels like to be considered broken. The dragons conferred quietly among themselves. Finally, the lead dragon nodded. Very well. We will provide you with basic information about dragon care. The council will send monthly payments for her expenses. I do not want payment, Marcus said firmly. If I take her because I choose to help, not for money. The lead dragon studied him for a long moment. You are an unusual human, Marcus Chen. We accept your offer. Perhaps you can give her something we cannot. They provided him with information crystals containing dragon care instructions, then prepared to leave. As they reached the door, the lead dragon turned back. Her name is Ember. She understands speech but cannot respond. Do not expect gratitude. Do not expect connection. She is traumatized and in pain. I understand, Marcus said quietly. After they left, Marcus sat beside the examination table where Ember lay. The small dragon watched him warily. Hello, Ember, he said softly. I know you are scared. I know you hurt. But you are safe now. I promise I will take care of you. Ember made a small chirping sound, nothing like the mighty roar dragons were known for. To Marcus it sounded like a question, or perhaps a plea. He gently touched her uninjured shoulder. We are both broken, he whispered. Maybe we can figure out how to heal together. Outside the clinic window, stars glittered in the endless dark. Marcus did not know what he had committed himself to. He only knew that he could not turn away from those desperate golden eyes. For the first time since the war ended, Marcus felt something besides emptiness. He felt purpose. Marcus carried Ember to his quarters carefully, supporting her damaged wings to avoid causing more pain. His living space was small but comfortable, one main room with a sleeping area, a small kitchen, and a workspace. It would need changes to accommodate a dragon, even a small one. Ember trembled in his arms during the entire journey. When he set her down gently on a padded mat, she immediately tried to crawl into the darkest corner she could find. It is okay, Marcus said softly. Take your time. This is your home now, too. He spent the first hour making adjustments. He moved furniture to create an open space where Ember could rest without obstacles. He adjusted the room temperature higher. Dragons needed more warmth than humans. He set up a shallow water basin and prepared food according to the instructions the dragons had provided. Ember watched everything from her corner, her golden eyes tracking his every movement. She flinched whenever he came near. Marcus recognized the behavior. He had seen it in soldiers returning from combat, in refugees displaced by war. It was the behavior of someone who expected pain, who had learned that the world was not safe. I will not hurt you, he told her, keeping his distance. You can stay in that corner as long as you need. He prepared a simple meal for himself and sat at his small table, deliberately not looking at Ember directly. Sometimes he knew the best way to help someone feel safe was to give them space. After he finished eating, he placed a bowl of prepared meat near Ember's corner, not too close, but within reach. Then he moved to his workspace and began reviewing dragon medical files on his datapad. An hour passed, then another. Marcus glanced over occasionally and saw that Ember had not touched the food. Her eyes were half closed, but she was not sleeping. She was exhausted but too afraid to rest. Marcus began talking, keeping his voice low and steady. When I was in the war, I had trouble sleeping too. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw things I wanted to forget. I was afraid all the time, even when the danger had passed. Ember's ear twitched, showing she was listening. The other soldiers did not understand. They told me to be strong, to get over it. But fear does not work that way. Pain does not disappear just because someone tells you to forget it. Marcus set down his datapad. I learned that healing takes time, and it is okay to be afraid while you heal. He continued talking, sharing stories about his recovery, about the small steps he had taken to feel safe again. He talked about the first night he slept without nightmares, about learning to trust again. He did not expect responses. He simply wanted Ember to hear a friendly voice. Eventually, his own exhaustion caught up with him. I need to sleep now, he said. The lights will dim, but I will be right here if you need anything. You are not alone, Ember. He lay down on his bed, leaving the small lamp near Ember's corner lit. Within minutes, he drifted off. Marcus woke in the early morning to a soft sound. He opened his eyes and saw Ember had moved closer to the food bowl. She was eating slowly, carefully, as if expecting someone to take it away. He stayed still, not wanting to startle her. When she finished eating, she looked directly at him. For the first time, there was something other than fear in her eyes, perhaps curiosity, or the smallest hint of trust. Over the following days, they established a routine. Marcus would wake early and prepare food for both of them. He would check Ember's injuries, applying medicine and changing bandages. She no longer flinched at his touch, though she remained tense. He created exercises to help her damaged wings. The exercises were gentle, designed to strengthen the muscles without causing pain. You may never fly like other dragons, he told her during their sessions. But we can help you be as strong as possible. Ember's response was always the same soft chirp, the only sound her damaged throat could produce. It was nothing like the powerful roar dragons were known for, but Marcus found it beautiful in its own way. Other station residents began to notice. Some stopped Marcus in the corridors with questions or criticism. "Why waste your time on a dragon reject?" one human merchant asked. "She will never be normal." "Normal is overrated," Marcus replied calmly. "She is alive and healing. That is what matters." A group of young aliens laughed when they saw Ember struggling through her exercises in the station's quiet garden area. "Look at the broken dragon," one said. "She cannot even spread her wings properly." Marcus felt anger flash through him, but before he could respond, Ember made a sound, a sharp, defensive chirp. She positioned herself between Marcus and the mockers, despite her small size and injuries. The gesture touched Marcus deeply. She was protecting him just as he protected her. "Come on, Ember," he said gently, guiding her away. "They are not worth our time." Back in their quarters, Marcus sat beside her. "You are brave," he told her. "Braver than they know. It takes more courage to keep trying when everything is difficult than to simply give up." Ember leaned against him slightly, the first time she had initiated contact. Marcus carefully placed his hand on her head, stroking gently. That night, for the first time since arriving, Ember fell asleep without whimpering. Marcus watched her peaceful expression and felt something warm in his chest. Hope, perhaps, or purpose. 3 months passed. Ember grew stronger each day. Her wings would never be perfect, but she could extend them now without pain. She followed Marcus everywhere, her small chirps becoming a familiar sound in their home. One evening, a dragon official arrived for an inspection. The tall dragon entered Marcus's quarters with skepticism clear in his expression. "I am here to assess the hatchling's condition," the official announced. "The council must determine if this arrangement is acceptable." He examined Ember thoroughly while Marcus waited. Finally, the official spoke. "She has improved significantly. However, she remains limited. Perhaps it would be better to place her in permanent dragon care, where she can be with her own kind." Ember immediately moved to Marcus's side, pressing against his leg. Her message was clear. She did not want to leave. Marcus met the official's eyes. "She is with her kind. She is with someone who cares about her, who sees her worth. Species does not determine family." The dragon official studied them both for a long moment. "The council will hear my report. They will make the final decision." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "You have done well, human. Better than we expected. But attachment will only cause pain when she must eventually move to proper care." After he left, Marcus knelt beside Ember. "No one is taking you away," he promised. "We will face whatever comes together." Ember chirped softly and touched her nose to his hand. In that moment, Marcus knew that saving Ember had also saved him. They had both been broken. Now they were healing each other. 6 months had passed since Ember came into Marcus's life. The small dragon had grown, though she remained smaller than typical dragons her age. Her scales had brightened from dull gray to a soft silver color. Her wings, while still crooked, had healed as well as they could. She would never soar through space like other dragons, but she could glide short distances with Marcus's help. More importantly, Ember had become confident. She no longer hid in corners or flinched at sudden movements. She explored the station with Marcus, greeting familiar faces with her gentle chirps. Some residents had grown fond of her, offering treats and kind words. Others still whispered that Marcus was wasting his time. Marcus did not care about the whispers. Every day with Ember reminded him why kindness mattered. She had taught him that healing was possible, that broken things could become beautiful in new ways. One morning, Marcus woke to alarms blaring throughout the station. His communication device buzzed urgently. He answered immediately. "Medical emergency in the lower decks." The station commander's voice crackled. "Chemical leak in storage bay 7. Multiple people trapped. We need all medical personnel." Marcus grabbed his emergency kit. "I am on my way." Ember chirped anxiously, sensing his stress. She followed him to the door. "You need to stay here," Marcus told her gently. "It is dangerous down there." But Ember refused to stay behind. She pushed past him into the corridor, her determination clear. Marcus did not have time to argue. "Fine, but stay close to me." They rushed to the lower decks. The scene was chaotic. Smoke filled the corridors from the chemical leak. Emergency crews worked frantically to seal the breach. Station security tried to locate trapped residents, but the thick smoke made visibility nearly impossible. "We have 17 people unaccounted for," the commander reported to Marcus. "The toxic fumes are spreading. We cannot send rescue teams into the worst areas without proper equipment, and that will take time we do not have." Marcus felt the familiar weight of helplessness, the same feeling from the war when he could not save everyone. Then he noticed something. Ember was sniffing the air, her head turning in different directions. Her nostrils flared as she processed scents that human technology could not detect. "Ember," Marcus said carefully, "can you smell people through the smoke?" The small dragon chirped and moved confidently down a corridor filled with thick chemical fog. Marcus followed, trusting her instincts. Ember led him to a sealed door. She scratched at it urgently, chirping repeatedly. Marcus checked his scanner. The door had locked automatically due to the emergency, but life signs showed behind it. 3 people were trapped inside. "I found survivors," Marcus called through his communicator. "Section 12, storage room 4. Security teams arrived and opened the door manually. 3 frightened workers stumbled out, coughing but alive. They stared at Ember in surprise. "The dragon found us?" one asked. "She did," Marcus confirmed. "And she can find others. Ember, can you search more?" Ember was already moving. For the next 2 hours, she navigated through smoke-filled corridors that rescue teams could not enter safely. Her small size allowed her to squeeze through partially collapsed doorways. Her damaged wings, unable to carry her in flight, proved perfect for balancing through narrow spaces. She located each trapped person with incredible accuracy. Marcus followed, providing immediate medical care while rescue teams extracted people. Ember's gentle chirps seemed to calm frightened survivors in the darkness. The final rescue was the most dramatic. Ember led them to a collapsed section where sensors showed no life signs. But she insisted, scratching determinedly at debris. When rescue workers cleared the rubble, they found a small child unconscious, but alive. The child's biosigns had been too weak for scanners to detect. Marcus immediately began emergency treatment while Ember stood guard, chirping softly as if encouraging the child to fight. The little girl survived. By the time the emergency ended, all 17 missing people had been found. 15 survived with minor injuries. The other 2 had passed before Ember could reach them, but their families found comfort in recovering them quickly. The station gathered in the main hall that evening. Commander Torres stood before the assembled crowd with Marcus and Ember beside her. "Today, we witnessed something remarkable," Torres announced. "This small dragon, who many dismissed as broken and useless, saved 15 lives. She showed courage, intelligence, and dedication that put us all to shame." The crowd erupted in applause. Ember pressed against Marcus's leg, overwhelmed by the attention and noise. He stroked her head reassuringly. A little human girl approached them shyly after the ceremony. She wore leg braces and walked with difficulty. Her mother followed close behind. "Excuse me?" the girl said softly to Marcus. "Is it true that Ember cannot fly like other dragons?" "That is true," Marcus confirmed gently. "Her wings were injured badly. She can glide a little, but she will never fly through space." The girl looked at Ember with wonder. "But she is still a hero?" "She is definitely a hero," Marcus said warmly. Tears filled the girl's eyes. "Everyone at school says I am broken because of my legs. They say I cannot do important things." Marcus knelt to her level. "Do you know what I learned from Ember? Being different does not mean being broken. It means finding your own special way to be strong. Ember cannot fly, but she can do things other dragons cannot. Her small size and special senses saved lives today. Your differences make you special too, not less." The girl reached out carefully to touch Ember's scales. The dragon chirped gently and nuzzled the child's hand. The girl smiled through her tears. Her mother mouthed "thank you" to Marcus, her own eyes wet. That night, Marcus received an unexpected message. It was from the Dragon Council, the governing body of Dragon Society. They requested a formal meeting to discuss Ember's future. Marcus felt worry creep through him. The council had been clear before. Ember did not fit their definition of a proper dragon. Would today's heroics change their minds, or would they still see her as incomplete? He looked at Ember, who was curled up peacefully on her sleeping mat, exhausted from the day's efforts. She had proven herself in ways that mattered, but would it be enough? "Whatever happens," Marcus whispered, "I will fight for you." Ember's ear twitched in her sleep, and she made a small, contented sound. For tonight at least, they could rest. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Marcus sat by the window watching stars glitter outside. Somewhere among those stars, powerful dragons were deciding Ember's fate. He could only hope they would see what everyone on Crossroads Haven now understood. That worth was not measured by what you could not do, but by what you chose to do, despite limitations. The future remained uncertain, but for the first time since the war, Marcus felt ready to face it. He was not alone anymore. Neither was Ember. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The Dragon Council arrived 2 weeks after the rescue. 5 elder dragons materialized on Crossroads Haven, their presence commanding immediate attention. Each wore ceremonial robes that marked their high status. Their scales gleamed with colors that spoke of centuries of life: deep crimson, ancient gold, midnight blue. Marcus met them in the station's conference hall with Ember by his side. The small dragon stood tall despite her nervousness, her silver scales pale compared to the elder's magnificence. Elder Karakthar, the leader, studied Ember with an unreadable expression. "We have received reports of the hatchling's actions during the emergency, most impressive for one so limited." Marcus bristled at the word, but kept his voice respectful. "Ember saved 15 lives. She showed intelligence, bravery, and compassion. These are the qualities that matter." "Perhaps," Karakthar said slowly. "However, the Council remains concerned. News of Ember has spread throughout dragon territories. Other dragons with injuries and disabilities are asking questions. Some are requesting to leave traditional care facilities. This creates problems for our society." "Problems?" Marcus asked carefully. "Or opportunities?" Another elder, Thasara, spoke. "You do not understand our culture, human. Dragons are beings of power and perfection. We fly among the stars. We breathe fire that can melt metal. These abilities define us. To celebrate those who lack these abilities would be to suggest that dragon nature itself is flawed." "With respect," Marcus said, "I think dragon nature is much bigger than flying and fire-breathing. Ember has shown that dragons can be courageous, clever, and kind. Are these not also dragon qualities worth celebrating?" The elders exchanged glances. Before they could respond, the conference room doors opened. A group of dragons entered, 7 in total. Each bore visible differences. One had a twisted wing, another had clouded eyes, a third was smaller than normal dragon size. They approached the council with a dignity that commanded attention. "Honored elders," the one with the twisted wing said, "we have traveled far to speak with you. We are the Forgotten Ones, dragons who were placed in care facilities because we did not meet the standards of perfection. We have heard about Ember and the human who accepted her. We have heard that she lives with purpose and respect. We wish to live that way too." Karakthar's expression hardened. "You were provided for. You receive care and safety in the facilities." "We receive survival," the dragon replied firmly, "but not life. We are hidden away, told we are shameful reminders of weakness. But we are still dragons. We deserve more than comfortable prisons." Thasara stood abruptly. "This is exactly what we feared. Ember's story is creating unrest. It gives false hope to those who should accept their limitations." "False hope," Marcus said, his voice rising despite his efforts to stay calm. "Ember's hope brought real results. She saved real lives. How is that false?" "Because not every damaged dragon can be a hero," Karakthar said sharply. "What happens when they try to follow Ember's example and fail? When they face the reality that they truly are lesser?" Ember suddenly moved forward. She positioned herself before the council and made her soft, chirping sound, the only voice her damaged throat allowed. Then she did something unexpected. She began to hum. The sound was unlike anything Marcus had heard from her before. It was not the mighty roar of traditional dragons, but something different, a melodious vibration that resonated through the room. Other dragons with disabilities joined her, adding their own unique voices. Together, they created a haunting harmony that seemed to touch something ancient and forgotten. The elder dragons froze, their eyes widening. The anger in their expressions melted into shock, then wonder. "Impossible," the Sarah whispered. "That is the Song of Unity." "What is the Song of Unity?" Marcus asked. Carakthar sat down slowly, his ancient eyes fixed on Ember. "It is from our oldest legends. Before dragons developed fire and flight, before we became the powerful beings we are today, our ancestors lived differently. They were smaller, weaker by current standards. But they had something we have lost, a way of communicating through harmonic resonance. The Song of Unity could convey emotions, intentions, and bonds stronger than words. We thought it was merely myth," Thessera added, her voice soft with awe. "A story to explain our evolution. But Ember, she has recreated it. Her damaged vocal organs, which we saw as a tragedy, have allowed her to access something we abandoned long ago." The other disabled dragons continued their song. Residents of the station, drawn by the beautiful sound, gathered at the conference room windows. Humans, aliens of various species, even the skeptical merchant who had mocked Marcus, all stood transfixed by the harmony. When the song finally faded, silence filled the room. Then Commander Torres, who had been observing quietly, spoke. "This is what diversity brings. Not weakness, but rediscovery. Not shame, but new possibilities." Carakthar rose, his expression transformed. "Human Marcus Chen, we came here to take Ember back to Dragon Society. We believed your care, though well-intentioned, was inappropriate. We were wrong." He turned to face all the disabled dragons present. "We were wrong about many things. We created a culture that valued only certain abilities, only certain forms of strength. In doing so, we lost pieces of ourselves. We hid away our own people and called it kindness." Thessera nodded. "The council will convene to discuss new policies. Perhaps it is time for dragons to remember that we are more than our powers. We are also our hearts, our minds, our spirits." "What about us?" the dragon with the twisted wing asked. "Can we leave the facilities? Can we find purpose like Ember did?" Carakthar looked at Marcus. "Would you be willing to help more than just Ember? Would you teach others your methods of adaptive care?" Marcus felt his heart race. The request was enormous, but he looked at Ember, at the hope shining in the eyes of the disabled dragons, and he knew his answer. "I will help," Marcus said, "but not alone. This needs to be bigger than one person or one dragon. It needs to become something lasting." Commander Torres stepped forward. "Crossroads Haven would be honored to host a new facility, a center for rehabilitation and training for all species who face disabilities. We can provide space, resources, and staff. I can train other medics," Marcus added, "both human and dragon. We can develop programs that help people find their strengths instead of focusing on their limitations." Other station residents voiced their support. Human veterans who understood Marcus's journey offered to volunteer. Alien physicians expressed interest in learning new techniques. The dragon with clouded eyes approached Ember and Marcus. "Thank you," she said softly. "Thank you for showing us that different does not mean lesser." Ember chirped gently and touched her nose to the other dragon's scales, a gesture of friendship and solidarity. As the meeting ended, plans were already forming. The rehabilitation center would need equipment, training programs, and funding. The Dragon Council committed resources. Human governments, impressed by Ember's rescue efforts, offered grants. Other alien species contributed technology and expertise. That night, Marcus stood with Ember on the observation deck, watching construction drones begin work on the new center's foundation. "We started something big," he told her. "Are you ready for this?" Ember hummed her new song softly, the melody carrying peace and determination. Marcus smiled and rested his hand on her head. They had come so far from that first frightened day, a broken veteran and a rejected hatchling, both given up on by their societies. Now they were building something that would change countless lives, but not everyone was happy. In the shadows of the station, some watched the developments with anger. Conservative groups from multiple species saw the center as a threat to traditional values. They began plotting ways to stop it. The journey was far from over. 3 months after the Dragon Council's visit, the Ember Institute officially opened its doors. The facility occupied an entire wing of Crossroads Haven, featuring specialized medical equipment, training rooms, and comfortable living quarters. Marcus served as director, but he ensured leadership included dragons, humans, and other species working together as equals. The first week brought 12 patients, dragons with various injuries and disabilities who had spent years hidden in care facilities. Each arrived nervous but hopeful, inspired by Ember's story. Marcus created individual treatment plans for each patient. Some needed physical therapy. Others required emotional support to overcome years of being told they were worthless. All needed to rediscover their sense of purpose. Ember became an unofficial ambassador. She greeted new arrivals with gentle chirps, showing them through her own example that limitations did not define destiny. When a young dragon with a paralyzed leg grew frustrated during exercises, Ember demonstrated her own crooked wings and encouraged him to continue. When another dragon struggled with sadness, Ember sang her unique song until peace returned. Human veterans also came to the Institute. They found healing through helping others, transforming their own pain into purpose. Former soldiers worked alongside former enemies, united by their shared commitment to care. The Institute's success attracted attention across many systems. News reports featured stories of remarkable recoveries and newfound abilities. Applications for treatment flooded in. Donations arrived from unexpected sources, but success also brought opposition. Conservative groups organized protests outside the Institute. Some dragons argued that the center insulted their proud heritage by displaying imperfect members publicly. Some humans claimed resources were being wasted on aliens when human needs remained unmet. The protests grew larger each week. One evening, security alerted Marcus to unusual activity near the Institute's main entrance. When he arrived with Ember, he found nearly 50 protesters blocking the doors. They carried signs with harsh messages about maintaining natural order and respecting traditional values. "This facility is an insult," one dragon protester shouted. "You teach weakness and celebrate failure." "You turn dragons into objects of pity," another called out. A human protester pointed at Marcus accusingly. "You should be helping your own kind, not wasting time on broken aliens." Marcus felt anger rising but controlled it. Before he could respond, patients from the Institute emerged. Dragons with disabilities, human veterans, alien beings with various challenges, all stood together peacefully. The young dragon with the paralyzed leg stepped forward. "I am not weak," he said clearly. "I am learning to be strong in new ways. Before the Institute, I believed I had no value. Now I know better." A human veteran spoke next. "I fought in the war. I saw terrible things. I thought my life was over. But helping others here has given me reason to live again. This place saves lives in ways you cannot understand." One by one, patients shared their stories. They spoke of despair transformed into hope, of isolation replaced by community, of feeling worthless until the Institute showed them their true value. The protesters listened, some with skeptical expressions, others with uncertainty beginning to show. Then Ember moved forward and began her song. The haunting melody filled the air, joined by other dragons who had learned the ancient song of unity. The harmony spoke of connection, acceptance, and the beauty of diversity. It carried emotions deeper than words could express. In the crowd, an elderly dragon began to weep. She approached slowly, her movements stiff with age. "I know this song," she said softly. My grandmother taught it to me when I was very young. She said it was from the old times, when dragons valued more than just power. I had forgotten. She turned to face the other protesters. We have forgotten so much in our pursuit of perfection. Perhaps these young ones are not insulting our heritage. Perhaps they are helping us remember what we lost. The protest dissolved gradually as people reconsidered. Some left still convinced of their views, but others stayed to ask questions, to learn, to understand. That night, the Dragon Council arrived again, this time with an announcement. Elder Karakthar addressed the assembled crowd in the station's main hall. The Dragon Council has reached a decision, he declared. We formally apologize for centuries of narrow thinking. We created standards that excluded many of our own people. We called it maintaining excellence, but it was truly fear. Fear that acknowledging different types of strength would diminish our power. The Sarah continued. We are establishing new traditions within dragon culture. Diversity of ability will be celebrated, not hidden. Young dragons will learn the song of unity alongside traditional roars. Facilities that imprisoned our disabled members will be transformed into true communities where all dragons can thrive with dignity. Furthermore, Karakthar added, the Council will fund the expansion of the Ember Institute to 10 additional locations across dragon territories. We hope other species will follow our example. Human delegates stood and made their own commitments. They pledged funding for similar centers on Earth and human colonies. They acknowledged that many human veterans needed the kind of support the Institute provided. Other alien species added their promises of support. What had started as one human helping one dragon had grown into a movement spanning multiple worlds. Marcus stood with Ember as the ceremony concluded. Commander Torres approached them with official documents. These make the Institute a permanent part of Crossroads Haven, she explained. Protected status, full funding guaranteed. You did this, Marcus. You and Ember. Marcus shook his head. We just showed what was possible. Everyone else made it real. A small human girl approached, the same child with leg braces who had met Ember months ago. She walked more confidently now, her mother beaming proudly behind her. I wanted to thank you, the girl said to Marcus. After meeting Ember, I stopped being ashamed of being different. I joined adaptive sports. I made friends who understand. I am happy now. Ember chirped and lowered her head so the girl could hug her neck. The child laughed with pure joy. As the celebration continued around them, Marcus and Ember slipped away to their quiet observation spot. They watched stars glitter against the endless dark, just as they had done so many times before. We have come far, old friend, Marcus said softly. Remember when they said you were incomplete, when they said I was broken. Ember hummed her song gently, a sound that now represented hope across many worlds. Marcus reflected on his journey. The war had broken something inside him, had made him feel useless and lost. But Ember had shown him that broken pieces could be rebuilt into something new and beautiful. Not the same as before, but perhaps even better. You saved me as much as I saved you, Marcus told her. Maybe more. A young dragon with a crooked wing appeared in the doorway. Director Marcus, the new patients are asking for you. They want to hear how you and Ember started. Marcus smiled. We are coming. As they walked back together, Marcus realized this was what healing truly meant. Not erasing the past or pretending damage never happened, but taking broken pieces and building something meaningful from them, taking pain and transforming it into purpose. The Ember Institute would help thousands find their own paths to healing. Some would become heroes like Ember. Others would live quiet, peaceful lives. All would know they had value, regardless of their limitations. Years of war had taught Marcus about destruction. A small rejected dragon had taught him about creation, about building bridges instead of walls, about seeing possibilities instead of problems, about choosing compassion even when the world chose judgment. They entered the training room where new patients waited eagerly. Ember chirped her greeting, and faces brightened with hope. Marcus began telling their story once more, watching understanding dawn in the eyes of those who felt broken. And in that moment, he knew the work would continue long after he was gone. Some stories end. Others transform into movements that echo across generations. This was one of those stories, and it had only just begun.